Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be ranking all live action Star Wars films in order, not tier listing. We're ranking, and those are two very different things, and their ranking is much more difficult than just tier listing. Tier listing's so easy. You just throw it all. You're like, oh yeah, category, but here I have to place one above the other. I have to place certain George Lucas movies above certain other ones, and I can't cheat and give leeway. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, I like to go bottom up, but I'm gonna just go in what I just know, which ones I know, where they are already. So, Revenge of the Sith is the best. Easily the best one. The way that this impacted not only cinema but Star Wars, I mean, everything built up to this movie from 1977 all the way up to 2005. Literally everything built up to that exact film. And some people didn't realize that because they're like, oh, well, it ended in Return of the Jedi, blah. It's like, no, it actually had been building to that because that finally answered all your questions. Where did Darth Vader come from? Who were the Jedi? How did they fall? Who was Anakin Skywalker? What exactly happened to him? All of those things. What was Obi-Wan like when he was younger? Like, all that stuff was answered, and how did Yoda and Darth Vader ever interact? Yes, they did, right? So you got all your answers in that film alone. And it was a cinematic masterpiece. And I mean, the way that George told that story in a way where he wasn't... It's like you already knew that it was going to happen, but he didn't... Anakin's shift wasn't, like, super obvious. It took a long time throughout the movie, and you watched him slowly just kind of fall away from the Jedi until he made a desperate decision. But even then, people thought, oh, he turned when he cried at the window. Oh, he turned when he cut Mace's hand off. Oh, he turned when he, activated his saber in front of the younglings. Oh, he turned after Order 66. Oh, he turned... It's like everyone has a different interpretation of when he turned. But what they don't understand is, even at the point of him cutting Mace's hand off, that's desperation. I could get into that whole, Anakin's fall arc. That would be a cool video, but, I'm doing a ranking, and I'm just ranking movie by movie. But, that was still desperation. That wasn't, an evil turn kind of thing. That was just desperation, and it was, instinct and a gut feeling. It wasn't like a thing that he thought about doing. It was just kind of like this, kind of a snap in an instant. But it was just a snap. Like, it wasn't a full turn. He slowly... That's when he really, like... Pretty much, most people could tell, like, that was it. Like, there's no way this guy, is coming back. Because, he's like, I pledge yourself to my teachings. But then we see him talk to Padme in a weird way. And then when we see him fighting Obi-Wan, he doesn't have Sith eyes. And then once he burns up and says he hates Obi-Wan, well, another order, then that is when he is gone. Right? He gets the Sith eyes, he burns to hell, he gets the suit, and that's like it, So it's just very interesting on how George was able to write that fall and how it was coherent and it made sense. And that's really hard to do because you have to really dive into your character and their mind to a major extent in order to pull something off like that and feel natural. You can't have characters act bipolar like Osha in The Acolyte, where she just switches sides like this, in an instant every time. That's just bad writing. But with George, it was a very slow progression all the way from Phantom Menace down to Revenge of the Sith. And it, instead of building up, building up to, like how Luke did. He built up to greatness, to being legendary. Anakin was the opposite. He started out where Luke started out, and he just slowly, descended to hell. So, that's juxtaposition between the Father and the Son, and how the Father fell and the Son rose and brought the Father back. It's a very interesting concept, So that alone, the way Anakin's arc was done is insane. And his dialogue and the way he moves and the way he talks in Revenge is so reminiscent to Darth Vader. It's like crazy, I can see Vader's armor on him without seeing it on him. Just like I can see Anakin walking around, when I see Vader walking around. It's the same kind of deal. Like, I can see through both sides. It's very interesting. And that's what Hayden did. He actually, studied how Vader walked and how Vader talked and how he interacted with people to prepare for his role as Anakin. And you see that in Revenge. Because in Episode 2, he's still more, he's more cocky, he's more but still, it's very interesting to see. And you see Obi-Wan's character arc and how you see him have to learn, that he doesn't know everything. And there's a moment in Episode 2 that people glide over where Yoda, Yoda knows Obi-Wan's a cocky bastard and basically tells him. It's when Mace Windu, it's when Yoda's on his little, pod thing, and they're in the hallway, with Obi-Wan and Mace. He's with Obi-Wan and Mace. And I forget the exact quote, but it's something about, man. I wish I could find that quote because it's so good. And he looks at Obi-Wan, and you see Obi-Wan just, not recognize it, but he's, basically, there's some of us who think, we know everything, but we don't. That's massively paraphrasing, but it was that Yoda version, and you'd see how Obi-Wan just ignored that and how he kind of ignores a lot of his criticisms and just, just keeps going. He's like, oh, well, I shouldn't even think about that for a second, even when it's coming from Yoda, because I'm perfectly fine how I am. That's how Obi-Wan was for forever. Then all of a sudden, in Revenge, he sees massive consequences from his mistakes. And it all hits him in Revenge. So it's a very cool thing to see. And you see how kind of all the way through Revenge till Order 66, he's progressively getting more scared. He's getting more worried. Because he knows that Anakin is not doing well and that these little things happening are, not good, and they're very negatively affecting Anakin, and you see him just get more and more worried until he basically experiences his worst nightmare, which is, failing his master's, mission that he was, he promised his Qui-Gon when he died that he would take on Anakin as his apprentice, and he failed. And he went in the opposite direction. Obi-Wan felt responsible. And you see that, and you also see, him just in sadness and realizing, I should have looked at this in a bigger way. I should have been more weary of the little things. And, that's just a great message to take away, in real life, is to not let little signs slide, and that's something that I've developed as, a person too, because, I don't want to get too far into it, but, having fake friends is never good. And there are people who will use you for your skills and then never talk to you again. And, I've developed ways to cut those people off earlier that I know are fake and just trying to, be clout chasers and whatever, especially now that, I'm still, have a, not a business where I'm making money, but I have kind of, I have a company, I have a business, which is my film company, SAADELIVE Film, and this channel now. And I've really adopted this business mindset and how, You know, you have to be really careful with who you're around, you know, as a businessman. And it's difficult, but there are people who will try to rip you down and manipulate you into destroying yourself. And it's very interesting. And a lot of that I kind of learned from Obi-Wan in a way, because I saw what happens when you do let all the little things slide, and you do, you know, just kind of let all your criticisms slide. And, you know, obviously there are criticisms that are false and just untrue, but there are little ones like, you could be more this, you could be more that, you could listen here more, you know, like those things. And it takes like a second and you think about it and you'll know. You know, it's not like, oh, I have to really dive into what they just said. It's like, you don't have to care what they say, but, you know, obviously it enters your mind and you think for a split second and you'll know in your gut whether what they said was true or not. And Obi-Wan just kind of brushed it all off, and then, you know, he effed himself. And Yoda, it's the same thing with ignoring the little things. And, you know, Yoda he was just so clouded from the dark side that, like, he felt like there was no way I can figure out what's really going on, because the dark side's just completely clouded my mind. And Yoda's a different thing, but he was actively trying to figure it out, though. That's the difference between Obi-Wan and Yoda. Yoda was not perfect. He, you know, didn't talk to Anakin in a great way a lot of the time, but he at least tried to understand what was going on. And Mace Windu, he was even worse than Obi-Wan. He was like, our way's the only way, and I know people like that, and they're awful, but, you know, he just looked at it like that. And then, you know, he just wouldn't look at it from any other point of view. And then surely enough, who's the one to tell everyone there's something fishy going on? Anakin. Right? Like, bro, he goes and tells Mace, and then Mace is like, are you sure? Are you sure? Right? Because he's like, well, I haven't sensed this. I haven't gotten a taste of this. So are you sure? That's how Mace is. He's so, like, rigid and firm, and, like, you know, that's what about his character. There's parts of that that's really cool, and there's parts of that that are just really freaking annoying, like that. And he's like, well, stay here. I don't believe you, right? Because I haven't sensed it, so I don't believe you at all. It's like his ego is huge. And then you see Palpatine, and he's just been planning it the whole time. Like, it's so cool to see, man. That whole movie, and this is just the characters. I haven't even gotten into, like, the sets, you know, and the planets and the music, and, like, all of that just is beautiful too. And the direction and the cinematography and the, like, it's just a perfect film. Like, you watch that movie, and when it's done, you feel like complete in a way. That's how I know I saw a masterpiece, is you feel like you witnessed a whole story from beginning to end, you know, and you feel like, well, I don't really, you know, it's all wrapped up and done, you know, and it doesn't, you know, and you saw something happen to the main character and saw them significantly shift, and you saw the ending, and that's how I know I saw a good movie. I just feel like complete afterwards, and I'm like, okay, that's it. It like feels really nice, and you're like, well, and there's a lot of, you know, plot details that you could miss, and then you have to go back and you go rewatch it again. You see more, but then there's more you realize that you miss, and you go back again. That's a good movie, you know, and I wish I could summarize that in a better way, but, you know, it's perfect. Like, literally there are not many perfect movies, man. Like, it's just not out there, you know, and Revenge is that, you know, it's just, objectively speaking, an incredible film, like, from every aspect, you know, and the fact that it wasn't even nominated for Best Picture is insane. But, you know, I know the Academy doesn't like George Lucas because he doesn't stand around with their bullshit, and he doesn't sign up for cults, and he's just him. He's real. He's a human. He, you know, believes in the Lord, and he's not, you know, a Satanist. He's a real, good, genuine hero of a human. So that is why Star Wars didn't get the credit it deserved at um, any of those big award ceremonies, because they knew that Lucasfilm operated out of Hollywood. They knew George was against all the stuff that they stood for, and therefore they tried to attack him multiple times, and they didn't let his movies win anything, because those awards are controlled. All of that's controlled, but that's, for another time. But that would be good to get into, because that would inform a lot of you. Like, it's not even conspiracy at this point. Like, it's just based in truth, man, and at how Hollywood's controlled by shady people. And it's true, and George rebelled against all of that, and that's part of the reason why I love him so much, is he just was like, I'm gonna make the movies I want to make, and that's gonna be the end of it, right? You're not gonna get your stupid, you're not gonna control me, and obviously now Lucasfilm is not independent. It's under Disney, which is now a major studio, and stuff happened internally. Disney wasn't always one of the big studios either. It was, I forget, there was an exact year where something happened, and then they basically got big on the stock market, and then, all the shady people got interested in them and made the company sell their soul in order to stay as big as they are. Then they bought Star Wars, and then all of that went to hell, and now Star Wars is known as this giant corporate brand, which freaking sucks, But yeah, anyways, that's different now. But yeah, my point being is Revenge is a true testament to George Lucas's vision for cinema, for Star Wars. It has my favorite characters in the world, which is Anakin and Vader, all in one movie, which is incredible. And it's made by literally my favorite filmmakers on the face of the earth. Not just director, writer, George, but, you have John Williams, and you have Rick McCallum, you have Nick Gillard, you have Gavin Bacquette, you have John Knoll, you have Rob Coleman, Doug Chang, Trisha Bigger, all these people, man, and I'm missing people. And then, of course, Hayden and Ewan and Natalie and Frank Oz and, James Earl Jones, bro, it's like, if this were 6 hours ago, I would not be able to make a video right now, because, unfortunately, bro, I'm not going to get into that, because it'll kill me. It already has. I've been internally slaughtered, and I did not need that today, but the GOAT, man. He was such a good guy. James Earl Jones, man, that man was the most genuine of genuine, just real good. He is what humanity needs. Like, that man was the kindest, most sincere, just wonderful human being, man. And I just remember, like, thinking, man, this guy's amazing. And, now that he's gone, you, like, feel it's like a void. But yeah, fuck, bro. Anytime I think about Vader now, today, I think of him, man. And it's like, what a gift that man was to the world, and to Star Wars. Like, he brought Vader to life, There's options for I'm not trying to disrespect David Prowse, because he's talented too, but you can put other people in the suit, like, that's a possibility, and that's, like, they already do. But that voice, man, you can't change that. There's no one else who can do that. They have to use AI now, because, like, no one else can replicate it. Like, that voice is Vader. Like, to me, James Earl Jones, he is like Darth Vader. Like, that voice, man, like, that is Darth Vader. Whoever's in the suit, whatever, bro. Because all that takes is good direction to get them to do what they need to do. But his voice, man, like, you can't change that. And that's, signature. It's like Darth Vader's signature. You couldn't have Vader without James Earl Jones. Like, that's just not in the realm of possibility, man. Like, he's just you hear that voice and you instantly know who it is, right? Like that. He literally, I think, he contributed, guys, to the best villain in the world history, man. I'll just say that. Like, and obviously in the arts, but like Darth Vader, George wrote him, but you need someone to play them in order to really get it across, because the writing's one thing, but you need someone who can really portray that writing, and that's James. He did it. Like, what an insane thing to have under your belt, to be like, I am the voice of, the greatest villain ever created. That is crazy. Like, that is an achievement among nothing else. And, the only person who would have anything above that, I think, is George, because he has the greatest brand ever, greatest movie franchise ever created, and, in my opinion, the greatest movie ever created, and that's ridiculous, and how he just shifted cinema. He's like, I don't even know, that man's a man. He's crazy, bro. Like, that guy has some, he got some gifts from God, man. And I'm telling you, yeah. And so did James. James was amazing. And I always, like, really, really loved him. And I wish that forever, I wish that I could meet him at some point. But, he didn't go to cons. He didn't go to any of that, because he shouldn't. He had his time, and, he should have, taken some time at the end of his life and just did what he wanted to do. And that's what he did at the end. He stopped playing Vader and, just kind of moved on. And yeah, no one's done Vader better. No one will. No one can. And if anyone else does the voice, it's just not the same. Even the AI one, it's not the same. Like, you hear it in the original trilogy and you're like, dude, that's Darth Vader. You have the body build of David Prowse and you have the voice of James Earl Jones. That is Vader, man. Like, that, there's no other Darth Vader, man. Like, that is it. And, I don't know. To me, at least, that's, like, the perfect Darth Vader, obviously. And James is irreplaceable. Like, you just cannot. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I miss him tons. And it was really, really, really devastating today to hear that he passed. And that's the last thing this fandom needs right now, too. It's just such a mess and a muck pile. And that was not a nice thing to open my phone to, but I'm not trying to make this about me or about anyone other than him, but it just shows how much I care about him, I guess, that it impacts me that much, And it's like, as a kid, Vader was, and still is, like, I think about Vader every day, like, constantly, bro. It's like, he's just made that much of an impact on me that, like, I see him, not literally, but, like, I don't know, like, just something pops in my head about, something Darth Vader, whether I see his mask in my head or something, it's like, or think about, one of the stories Vader's been in, or, start making my own, fan fictions about, what if Vader fought Maul, like, all that stuff, that Star Wars nerdy stuff, man, like, that's the best. And, my dream is to at some point be able to write Darth Vader into something and actually, like, use him, and, like, I'm not going to make, like, a Vader project, because Theory's doing that, and no one will do it better than Theory at this point, other than George Lucas, so, Theory's basic, he's better than Filoni at this point, like, Filoni, I don't know, I think Theory would do a better job. That episode 2 is going to be ridiculous. But if I had a project and Vader was around in the time period, that's my dream, man, is being, as a filmmaker, it's one of my goals to be able to use Vader at some point in a Star Wars project. That would be everything, because he's, you know, it's like to the point where I like misspeak, and someone says like, I forgot, someone said like Bayer, like the, I think it's like some sort of medical something, bandage company or something like that. I don't know, something around there. And then I was like, Vader? And they're like, what? And I'm like, see, it's like, it was, you know, someone close to me. It wasn't random, and I'm not that socially weird. But, you know, it was someone, and I was like, oh, Vader, what? And they're like, no, Bayer. It's like that alone shows you that's like, I'm constantly, you know, like thinking about Vader. Vader means so much to me, you know, beyond just, oh, he's a cool villain. It's like, no, he has, you know, he's a part of my life every day, you know, and I'm always thinking about Vader all the time, you know, like, it's just, he's probably my favorite piece of Star Wars, to be perfectly honest with you. Easily, you know, he's just the best piece of Star Wars. I think overall, you know, and including Anakin in that too, those two, but Vader particularly, you know, you just see his face everywhere. You're at 7-Eleven, you see freaking Darth Vader somewhere. You know, you're at Target, you see Darth Vader. You're at Walmart, you see Darth Vader. You're freaking walking the streets of LA, you see Darth Vader. Like, this is what I'm saying, like that's what I'm saying, like, he never leaves my mind, so I'm constantly seeing him everywhere, you know, and he's become like, it's weird, because he's become like, you know, it's such a, it's like beyond a pop culture icon. He's just like become like he's like Uncle Sam. That's what he is. He's like Uncle Sam. And how people in the 40s, you know, they'd see him everywhere, and he was like, people thought he was a real person. Or Rosie the Riveter. Same thing in the 40s, man. Like, some people are still stupid enough, and they think that, you know, she was an actual person. She wasn't. That's, I guess, what Vader is to me, but more, you know, because he's like, you know, there are parts of Vader that I look up to, you know, in terms of confidence, and in terms of strength, and in terms of, you know, not letting people ride all over you. And, you know, so I guess he's not like a hero, because he was not a good person at all. He was horrible, in fact. He was, at some points in time, man, he was just vile. But, you know, oops. Dude. But yeah, dude, this is what happens. I just try to do one thing. Anyways. But yeah, he was, you know, he had his moments. You know, he just has those badass moments where you're like, dude, and your grin is like this, you know, like, that's what he did, man, and that's what James contributed to, and that's just amazing, man. I thank him so much for that. And it's like a freaking Vader's helmet on my shelf thing over here. I have Vader on the VHS. I have Vader on that book. 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 It's like crazy. I have Vader there. Vader there. Vader here, 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 here. Like, that shows you how much, like George said, Vader's the main character of Star Wars. People, all the cinema boys refuse to believe it. They're like, he is not the main I'm like, yes, he is. He's everywhere. But he's hidden in the background. Notice on all the posters, like, he's always there, you know? And in a certain point of view, that's Vader. And that's Vader, right? So it's like, it's just cool. It's interesting, man. But, you know, I have a whole book in there that's like, it's all about Vader alone and how he impacted the world. It's called Star Wars: The Complete Vader. It's by Ryder Wyndham. I got it at a used bookstore, but it's really cool. It goes over his story, it goes over his costume, it goes over his pop culture impact, and it goes over the people who played him and how they impacted the character and how George conceptualized him and how Ralph McQuarrie conceptualized him. And it's just like the whole history of Darth Vader up to, I think, 2012. So all the good old days, you know, the man, bro, I miss those days so much. But like back when there was nothing negative about Star Wars, like those days. Crazy. Anyways, yeah, James was a hero to me. You know, he still is, even in spirit. But he practically made my childhood a thing. You know, without Vader, it wouldn't be me. You know, I wouldn't be as big of a Star Wars fan. You know, I wouldn't have this channel. You know, I wouldn't be making movies. I wouldn't be in my film program. I wouldn't have half the friends I have. It's like, you know, not that I met them through loving Vader, but like, you know, they're film people, and I got into film through Vader, and, you know, it's like the continuous kind of ricochet effect that he's had on me is insane. And that's something I whenever I hear anyone say anything even half negative about Vader, I'm like, dude, you have no idea what this character has done for people like around the world. You have no idea, dude. You have no idea. No idea at all. And everyone knows who he is, too. You can be like, Grandpa. They're like, Darth Vader. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. You could go to a Joe Schmo on the street and be like, show him a picture. Who's this? They'll be like, yeah, it's Darth Vader. Everyone, the whole world knows who this guy is. Everyone. He is the most, people are like, it's him, Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America, maybe, are just instantly recognizable by everybody. Like, you just know. They just know. The whole world knows who these people are at this point. You know, like, it is genuinely crazy how they've made characters like that. Like, human beings have come up with characters that last, like, what Batman's 85 now? Like, that's just crazy. And Spider-Man's probably around that age. Like, it's just ridiculous. And Vader will be what, like, archaeologists and historians look at about, you know, and study about civilization now in 100 years, 200 years. They'll be like, there was this, you know, guy, you know, he's prevalent in a lot of old pop culture art, and his name was Darth Vader, and he'll be in museums, and like that's how monumental Darth Vader is to the world. Like, just monumental and completely crazy, which means that's George's name. You know, George already, he's like Mozart. People are gonna know his name for hundreds of years, thousands. You know, he's like, he's like kind of, he's made pop culture a thing. That wasn't a thing before Star Wars, you know? So, like, that alone, you know, George, Jesus, but that's one, I hope, you know, and he's fine, bro. He's doing his thing, and, you know, I don't see anything bad happening to him. I think he's just being George and constantly working and creating things for us to enjoy, you know, and this one for free. Just go to his museum. So, you know, George is being George right now. So I do hope to meet him someday, even if I just see him from afar, which my only hope for that as of now is, you know, if there's some Lucas Museum opening ceremony where he speaks, then potentially, you know, but Outside of that, he just kind of stays away from everything, which I really respect on every level. So, I get it, dude. I get being away from these crazy Hollywood people and their psychoticness and evilness. I get it, man. Like, more than any other kid my age. I dream of being a slave of a studio. Like, bro, I understand, man. I'm not like them. I'm not. I get it. That's why I wish George still owned Lucasfilm, because that would be the perfect company for me, because they're independent. They're out of Hollywood. I don't have to sell my soul. Like, that would be a whole thing. It would just be perfect. But now that it's been sold to a corporate giant, which at the time, George didn't think they were a corporate giant or think that they'd be like this now. That's not happening. So, who knows? Maybe at some point, all Hollywood will completely change and, like, there will be some massive thing. But who knows? I don't even know if that'll happen, to be honest. But, yeah, I've been yapping for, like, half an hour about Darth Vader. But, James is... I felt like I had to pay respects a little in this video. And I did a bunch of stuff on Instagram for him and, already processed it. And I've had time, so I can speak about it calmly now, which is nice. But, yeah. Back to the ranking that I started 30 minutes ago. So I put Revenge of the Sith at number 1. Number 2 is Empire. That's obvious. I don't really need to get into that. It just is Star Wars, and the most Star Warsy Star Wars of Star Wars. Like, it's, again, everyone knows Empire Strikes Back. Like, that's just kind of a household name of a film. Everyone's seen it. It's like a massive thing in pop culture. I'm going to say this with every movie, dude. Every Star Wars movie that George made, and be like, it was a massive piece of pop culture, because all of them were, man. But Empire was, yeah, I am your father. That was crazy. Or, I love you, I know. Like, or Boba Fett being in the frame for 20 seconds and becoming, like, one of the most loved characters of the franchise. Like, that's how much of an effect costume design has. People underestimate how much costume design has to do with the character. They're like, oh, I think... And I do that sometimes. I'm like, oh, we can deal with the costume later. It's like, no, that should be the forefront. Because that's how... Part of the reason why Vader's as big as he is, that's, why Boba's as big as he is, because he didn't really have a character arc until they started making books about him. And still his character arc is very gray and light and not very detailed. But, Vader, I guess even at the beginning of A New Hope, drew everyone in from his costume design and the breathing, right? That's another thing that everyone knows instantly. The like, dude. But yeah. Empire, and I love that film, as a film kid, that's like the most film kid Star Wars movie, there's all that like little niche film stuff in that movie that I'm like, ooh, I get kind of excited about. But yeah, I love it, man. Every aspect of that film is amazing, and I watched it all the time as a kid. That's one that I saw probably, it's actually watch time wise second place too, because I watched it. That's probably my most watched one other than Revenge. Revenge is my most watched. Empire's like right underneath it. Like, it's close, but I watch Empire all the time. Like, those two are on my TV every couple weeks. There's one of those two on, and there's all of Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and cinema that's in the between that. But just those two alone are on every couple weeks. Like, that is how I just love those movies. They're my favorite movies ever. Revenge and Empire. Yeah. Next, I'm going to put Phantom Menace. And this is another one of my most watched ones. Actually, is it? Yeah, probably is. Yeah, probably. But I love Phantom. I love everything about it. And I've explained a lot of this already, and I went way too far into Vader and stuff, and my runtime is crazy, but it's partially why I made this video. Anyways, Phantom is it's a groundbreaking movie in so many ways, and visual effects, and storytelling, and cameras, and even the way it was shot. And what it was shot on primarily was, it was the last Star Wars movie shot on film, but some shots were fully digital and shot on digital cameras, and then some, it was projected from digital projectors, and that was crazy. So, Phantom Menace, it was the first digital movie. There was no digital movies. Phantom Menace was the first one, and it shook cinema by storm. And George literally is the reason why we are not only on physical sets, and why we're not only using film cameras, and why we're not using film loop clicky projectors in theaters anymore. It's literally because of this movie, and people don't understand that. All my fellow media film kids in that class, they don't understand, but this movie is literally how we have Marvel, how we have any movie with any level of visual effects or digital anything, is because of Phantom Menace, and that is a massive step forward. And that's the reason why I'm able to film right here on my phone, is because George was like, let's not do this film thing anymore. And he cut it out by episode 2. Episode 2 is fully shot with digital cameras. But he, that's why he started it. And now we're up to phones, which I can just record like this and not have to go, is my tape ready yet? Oh, I gotta go soak it in water and get it ready. Like that. I don't have to do that anymore, because that's all George. He's like, no, this is stupid. This is ineffective. This is a waste of time. It's limiting what we can do with our movies. We can't do the effects that we need to do. And it just was all this crap. And George was like, nope. And he cut it all out. And now we have digital effects, digital cameras, digital projectors, all because of George Lucas. So thank you, George. And all these film kids love their stupid film, and they're like, oh, I can go shoot on film. I'm so excited to waste all my money and my time and stress out my whole production and possibly ruin my whole production because I need to shoot on old technology. But they don't understand that they wouldn't have been able to get their application video done without having digital, right? So they don't see that. You wouldn't even get past the application step if it weren't for George. You wouldn't be able to scroll through and look at all your stupid aesthetic Instagram reels if it weren't for George. George literally pioneered technology with Phantom Menace. It is that much of an impact that people, again, glide and ignore, because that's what Hollywood wanted to do. They wanted to bury it because he did something before them, and they were stubborn. They didn't want to move forward. They didn't want to make new kinds of movies because they're all, controlled by something and someone, or some people that have certain views and certain things, and they go to them and they're like, no, no, no. So then Hollywood's like, no, 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 George. But George does it anyways because he's the GOAT. But yeah, you wouldn't have half the crap you have. You wouldn't have your phone in your pocket. You wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for George and what he did with Phantom Menace. And even audio, too, with the pod race scene was revolutionary in the way that was done, and how he had all these different sounds interacting at once, and he did the, what's it called? It wasn't Dolby yet, but THX. That's it. I knew there was a name, but that was his kind of audio company, And, for me, it was really nostalgic because it was on all the DVDs, and you'd have, it was this really weird intro on every Lucasfilm DVD, and be like, Lucasfilm THX. And there'd be this really loud, sound that would play every time. It would, blow your eardrums out. If you're an OG, you'd remember that, but, that was something funny. I remember THX. All that's George, and the way it's like spatial audio. That's right, and how the pod racers were like whoosh, whoosh, and you'd hear one go over you at the same time. Then you'd hear like a all at once, and you'd see oh, it's from here, but it's here at the same time, like the spatial audio thing. That's George. So thank the maker, as C-3PO would say. All right. Star Wars is 4, easily. I love Star Wars. A New Hope. Again, this one's literally the reason why you don't have. This is what put an end to every single film just being people talking for 3 hours. This is it. This is the reason why you have pop culture. This is the reason you have franchises. That word didn't even exist until Star Wars. And this is all based in fact, by the way. You can all research it and look it up. But, Star Wars started franchises. It started that movement of cinema where people are like, oh, wait, I can make my movies fun. I can make them fun. But at the same time, I can make them good. And Star Wars really woke up a lot of these new filmmakers that are making movies now, like Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve and Jordan Peele and all these people, because they make amazing films that are entertaining and tell good stories. That's because they all have had some recollection with Star Wars and with George and not this movie in particular. And Ridley Scott, it made him depressed because, that was the movie that he wanted to do, but he didn't know exactly how to do it, and George did it, right? So, Star Wars, story-wise, shifted cinema to where Phantom Menace, while it definitely helped push the, good story with action, Phantom Menace was more visual and technical push, where Star Wars was a storytelling push with kind of, I guess it's not true. They both did, because Star Wars had a massive visual push too. No, Star Wars is the reason why visual effects companies even exist. So you know what? No, Star Wars did both really well. That's crazy, man. I forget how, because to me, those are oh, they're old. But then I think about it, I'm like, dude, those were crazy back then. Even the saber fight with Obi-Wan and Vader, that was unheard of, man. Yeah, Star Wars, freaking incredible. Dang it, now I'm stuck, guys. I don't know which one. I'm between Attack and Return now for 5th place. And I can't decide. Because, there are parts that I'm oh, that's better in Return. There are parts I'm oh, that's better in Attack. But it's, hard to put one above the other. I'm going to put Attack above. Because it visually, this is the first film in world history ever shot on, fully shot on digital cameras. So that's revolutionary. And the Battle of Geonosis shook the film industry and showed the scale that you can have in your movies. And again, is the reason why any film has the scale it has today was because of Attack of the Clones and the massive, grandiose scale of the Battle of Geonosis. And, and Anakin's arc in that movie is really good, and it's very raw, and, it's interesting. It's so interesting. And the way Anakin was done in that movie, no one expected it. It was done in such a unique, his character is done in such a unique way, and, so Shakespearean, in the way he talked, and it really people were what, Vader is like this? But then when you think about it, that is how Vader talks. Vader talks in a very high vocabulary, you know, way. He just has really good vocab, and he talks kind of in poetry, and that's how Anakin talks. People didn't connect the dots, but once you connect the dots, you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And that's just how he is. So that was really cool to see. And how the Jedi lingo kind of affected Anakin, because in episode 1, he's a kid, didn't know the Jedi, didn't have any of their education. So he talked like normal, and then once he's 10 years into being a Jedi, then he's like, oh, then you see that he changed a lot, and that's the point between episode 1 and 2 is you're supposed to notice a big change, for Anakin, and how he did get the Jedi lingo and the, did get educated to talk like them, and how that changed. But I love his arc in the movie, and my favorite scene in Star Wars, well, one of them, it's like impossible to choose the one, but one of them that's up there has got to be when he's racing through the Tatooine desert with Duel of the Fates playing in the background. You just see this raw anger, like, it's just, oh, it's so good, man. Like, my film kid, like, I'm like, yes, goosebumps every time. And the whole Tusken scene's just beautiful, Oscar-worthy acting, where he's with his mom, and, she dies, and then he goes slaughters the whole camp. And then afterwards, when he's, like, having his emotional breakdown with Padme, like, all that, so good. So 6 is Return of the Jedi. I absolutely love Return of the Jedi. It was my favorite one for like 2 years of my life when I was really little, like when I was 3. Because I saw Revenge of the Sith when I was 4. So Return was my first favorite Star Wars. This is not even 2 years, like a year. Return was my favorite when, I'd just seen the originals. It was my favorite out of the 3 at the time. Obviously, that's significantly changed, but I still love it, man. It's so, and just because it's at 6 doesn't mean it's my least favorite. I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's the worst one. No, they're all 10 out of 10 movies. It's just which 10 out, what vibe do I like the best, really. That's how I'm ranking them, because they're all the same rating. They're all 10 out of 10. But, Revenge might have 11 or 12 out of 10. And Empire might have 11 or 12. But the other ones are all 10 out of 10. They're all perfect. But it's like, where do I rank the perfect? Like, which vibe do I like the best? But I love Return. It's great, and I love the ending of Return the best. But, it's just, it feels a little different from all the rest. Like, it's just, it has this unique tone, which in ways I like, and in ways I am like, on. Not that I hate it, but like, that's not what I'm trying to, what I'm trying to say is like, it's like a feel, like a Tony thing, that I don't totally vibe with, but, that's because you had Richard Marquand. It's like when you have different directors, you're gonna get like little vibe changes. Like even if George is in their ear the whole time, you're still gonna get things, and I'm not trying to say, it's George's fault. No, like that's not his fault. And it's again still a 10 out of 10 movie, so I don't know why I'm even saying this, but I guess what I'm trying to tell you is the vibe I didn't connect with as much as the other ones, but it's still beautiful, and I love Luke. This is my favorite movie that Luke is in. I think he was done perfectly, and it came full circle, and he was like just this beast, like this powerful, crazy, wise, just amazing he was like the Jedi in this movie, like Jedi him, like he was him. But yeah, I love Return, and the ending hits me every time, just as much as Revenge, just in the opposite emotion. It's like, dude, they've been fighting this war for so long, and all this stuff has happened, and it just this chaos and awfulness and evil, and then after Return, like, they finally won, and that feeling, like, it feels like you were in it the whole time, in ways you were, especially as a fan who's watched all the shows and read all the books and, dived into it. I pretty much have. I've been immersed in all of that. So it feels like I won in a way, and that I was part of this fight, and that's incredible. Now, do I think everything the Republic did and the Rebels did were great? No. There were aspects of the Empire that I thought the concepts were workable, and that they were, I like that they were firm, but obviously the way they executed those things were not great. But my point being, is that, I'm not like, oh, I hate the Empire. Oh, no. They're still cool. They're cool. They're like Vader, where they do just terrible things, but they still are cool. And it's like badass to see, all that squad of stormtroopers marching with the Imperial March playing. Like, that is something I want to see at some point. Just that alone would be like, shit, dude. Like, like in the beginning of Empire, when the Imperial March plays and you see all the TIE fighters and the Star Destroyer, and then you cut into the, bridge and you see Vader standing there looking out at all his troops, and it's like, I love it, dude. But yeah, anyways, so now that we're out of 10 out of 10 cinema perfection, we're moving on to Disney. 7 is Rogue One. Amazing movie, dude. Like, genuinely, it just felt like, it like felt different from George's stuff in a lot of ways, but at the same time it felt like Star Wars. It felt like I was in the original trilogy, and a lot of the themes from, not musical themes, but like themes from the original trilogy and from Star Wars were implemented into Rogue One really well, and it felt like it. Even though we don't have a Jedi present, we have Chirrut Imwe, we have Baze Malbus, we have the Guardians of the Wills, and they're connected to the Force, and the Force is being mentioned, because that's something you need in every Star Wars, product to an extent. Unless you're doing like a full smuggler thing, not even then. You always need the Force to be somewhat present. That's kind of one of my rules. You don't need to even have a Jedi or a Sith, but to have that religion aspect be involved in one way, shape, or form, even if it's portrayed through the music, you have to have that. Like, that is a piece of Star Wars that you can't make Star Wars without that, and that's why with Andor's why it doesn't feel as much like Star Wars, because like you don't have that aspect of the Force at all. You don't have any of that like religious feel to anything. It's just like very, and that's not what Star Wars is. So it's just a thing. But anyways, yeah, Rogue One is amazing. They did Vader perfectly. I know the line, be careful not to choke on your aspirations, is controversial. I thought it was done in a way where it was very, like, spiteful and, like, you better not, be careful not to choke on your aspirations, you idiot. Like, he just wanted to snap his neck so bad, but he knew that Palpy would get mad at him, right? Like, that's kind of how I saw that scene. So I was like, it worked. Would I write that in there? No. But did it work? And does it make me mad? No. But did it work? Yes. I think it worked. And it puts a smile on my face every time. And the hallway scene, Vader's amazing. And Andor's character's really cool. And how I was invested in him. And I love Krennic. I'm like a huge Krennic fan. As you saw when I saw him in the trailer, I freaked out, for the D23 Andor Season 2 trailer. Bro, he is so cool. Like, in every, like, aspect, man. He's just, I love him, bro. He's so cool. Are we blind? Deploy the garrison. Move. Like, he cuts straight to the point. He doesn't give them any leeway, and he's not trying to be mysterious. He's just like, he says it how it is, I guess. He's just like, what the fuck are you doing? You see this base exploding, you're not moving? Like, he's just, move. I love that scene. It's just so, like, real, because that's exactly what I'd do if I were in his position. So it's really cool to see that. But yeah, anyways, Solo's 8. I love Solo too. I'm a massive Solo fan. I think the way they did Han in that movie was near perfect. I just loved that movie. And the pace was like Star Wars. It felt like Star Wars. It had those little kind of undertones of the Force and undertones of something greater existing, and that's important. And you got Chewie, you got Han, you got the Falcon, you got Lando. You know, you got all these cool characters. You got new characters and villains that are actually interesting and that are actually new. And I know George is a big fan of Solo also, so I have big respect there. And I loved seeing Maul and seeing my boy Ray Park show back up. And I met Ray Park, and that was really cool. But I love him. Such a nice guy, genuinely kind man. Him and Sam Witwer combined was just crazy. It like blew my mind. Like, this is happening. It's awesome. But yeah, I love Solo, bro. I watch it all the time. It's just like such a fun movie to watch, and it feels like you're on this journey. And then they leave it off at this awesome cliffhanger with like Han going to go to this new job, which I'm pretty sure was gonna be him meeting Jabba the Hutt, and like, who wouldn't want that? Like, that's just such a cool movie. That's just like the movie, bro. I want that so bad with Alden Ehrenreich, like, bro. Please, that is one thing that I'm just dying, because I know they can do it. They just bring Ron Howard back, and they bring the writers back, and they do it, and it will work. Like, I want it so bad. I want that movie, dude. And fine, I will make it. Like, let me make it. I want to make it, dude. That's just such a cool movie. Then you could go and make another project with Maul and Kira, but I think that's another project. I don't think those two should be related. Hence, that's the whole point of the ending, is that they part ways and never see each other again. So, yay, theme. We love theme. Anyways, but yeah, that's the end of good Disney Star Wars right there. Movies. And I hope Mando and Grogu can join those ranks. I hope that I can be like, man, I love Mando and Grogu. It's so great. I love this, and this. This character is badass. This character is... That's what I want. And if I get that, man, I will be so happy and satisfied, because I have not had that since like freaking Tales of the Jedi, oh God, like 2 years ago. And even that, like, it was shorts. Like, I haven't been like this major new project. I haven't thought that way probably since Solo, man. No, Mando. What is wrong with... I think of Mando as like a movie. It's so weird, but it's a show, but I don't think about it as a show. It's like the weirdest thing. Since 2020. So it's been 4 years. 4 years since one of their live action big budget shows that I've been like genuinely been like, yeah, that's Star Wars, I haven't felt that forever. Anyways, on to the sequels now. 9 is Force Awakens. I liked what they started with. I was like, all right, if you're not going to use George's scripts because you're psychopaths, this is the best you could come up with, because you're not George. So, working with what they had, they introduced some new interesting concepts that didn't get executed well at all. Like the First Order was a really good concept. They just should have been stronger. They should have been scarier than the Empire. They should have been like freaking crazy fanatical followers of the Empire's ideas. That's what should have happened, and that's what was intended. But that never happened, because we got the happy-go-lucky ending with every single movie. Yeah. And then it just was corny, like the good guys winning became corny, and it didn't mean anything. It didn't seem like they actually put up a fight. It was like, we win. Blah, 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 blah. Every time they just won. It was freaking annoying. But I love Kylo, and I've talked about that. I love his character's design, his helmet. I think he's an interesting character, and where he came from and his motives, and all that. But was he executed well? Not really. But anyways, I don't want to talk about that garbage for too long. Next is Rise of Skywalker. No. I used to just put that 10 I might leave 10 vacant, and I'm gonna put Last Jedi 11, horrible movie, and they just had no idea what the Force was. They had no, they meet freaking Ryan Johnson, bro. He had no idea what the Force was. He had no idea how to pace Star Wars. It was too slow. They went on a side quest that didn't meet the plot, that goes against George's vision. The ricochet effect wasn't there, which is a strategy George used that I've called it the ricochet effect, or the ricochet method, whatever you want to call it. That wasn't used. It wasn't shot like Star Wars should be shot. Luke was worse for last. For Luke was done awfully, like different character. Like I when I was a kid, I didn't even connect that version of Luke with Return Luke. Like it just didn't make sense. It like took me years to realize that's the same guy, and I was like, what the F? And that's theory that woke me up to, because I was a kid, bro. I was like 8 when I saw that movie. So that part of The Last Jedi didn't like click to me. But then when I was freaking, probably 2018, so like a month or two later, I was like, bro, what did they do to him? And I was like, no. But yeah, the horrible movie, had a cool fight scene in the throne. It was horribly choreographed, but at least it was brutal, because I like brutal things, because I'm freaking crazy. But at least there was some of the when Kylo stabs the guard and throws him into that electrified thing, and he goes psh, and he just was like, ooh, that was cool. When he chops the guard's head off, or chops Snoke in half, all that crap is cool, bro. I'm like Quentin Tarantino in that sense. Like, just make it brutal, because it's freaking fun. I don't care what you say. You're a psychopath. It's fun, bro. It's fun when you do it in the right way. When you're not like, there's limits, but yeah. Tross is also, Tross I'm putting just as bad as The Last Jedi. I can't put it above anything. That movie destroyed the lore just as much as The Last Jedi did. But they did it in a subtle way to where they weren't being blatant about it, which in ways is even worse filmmaking wise, because they weren't strong about their creative decisions in the film. But that movie wrecked the whole ending of Return of the Jedi. It wrecked the Chosen One prophecy. Thinking about it, it makes me really pissed off. They, again, didn't know anything about the Force, didn't know how it worked, didn't know that you couldn't just pull Force lightning out of your ass, didn't know that you could just freaking have Force die, and all this crap, like, they just inserted in that movie at just the worst time after The Last Jedi, and everyone bought into it for a good month. And then after the month passed, everyone's like, oh, that was actually bad. Because once people rewatched it, they saw the bad stuff. And it's just like, it's corny, it's bad writing. It's like there's nothing good about that movie. I can't put it above The Last Jedi. They're equally as bad. And it's just, that is, Rise of Skywalker, that is fan service galore. Like, oh my gosh, you cannot argue, like, that is fan service. Like, Marvel, they've done fan servicey things, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, they're fan service. I love Marvel. Freaking look at this, bro. Like, I love Marvel, and I love, the Avengers movies and stuff, but, it's like Endgame, there were things that were fan servicey that took away from the plot, and same with Spider-Man No Way Home. But Rise of Skywalker was on another level of just like, they thought they knew the fandom, and they thought they were doing things fans would like, but we actually didn't give a shit. They did a lot of that, and it was just freaking horrible. And I'm like, I don't know what fans you're servicing to. But you think we're gonna love Rey saying, I'm Rey Skywalker? Like, holy fuck. That was just a bad movie. In ways, no. It's just, I think it's I'm trying to say in ways it's like one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But I've seen some bad movies that are even worse than that, believe it or not. But it's down there, man. It's among just the pit of hell of movies I've seen. Yeah, just horrible. The only thing that I even could halfway appreciate was Kylo's cracked helmet. I was like, that is cool. I want to see more of that. But then guess what? It despawns halfway through the movie with no explanation. So there you go, guys. And I have that sitting right over there because I'm like, man, this is the only thing from that trilogy that I liked was his freaking helmet and his freaking lightsaber and the stormtrooper helmet. There are three things that, someone could come up with in their basement. Man, like that's not even, doesn't, freaking stupid, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh god, that's just sad. Mess of a trilogy. Kylo's cool though. I hope that they put him in something and do him justice because he was done not great in those movies. And so, I want to see him. I do want to see him come back though at some point. Before the sequels, and so that we could see him just wrecking, like that's what I want to see, bro, because that's what he should be. He's like schizo Vader, like that's kind of how I see Kylo. He's like schizophrenic Darth Vader. But yeah, I want to see that. But yeah, that's it. That's all my movies. Revenge at 1, Empire at 2, Episode 1 at 3, Episode 4 at 4, Episode 2 at 5, Episode 6 at 6, Rogue One at 7, Solo at 8, Force Awakens at 9, and Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker both at 11 because they are just both equally as freaking horrible, and I could not put one above the other if it was for the death of me. I freaking cannot, but that's it. So thank you for sticking along for another ridiculously long episode of SAADELIVE. I will see you in the next video. Till the next one. Till next time. May the Force be with you always. Have a good day. Good night. Whatever the hell time it is. Bye-bye.